Section 13.3, we're going to take a look at the Truth in Lending Act and how it sort of plays out in financial institutions. So to start with, we'll just define what the Truth in Lending Act is. So this was passed in 1968, and it addressed two major issues. Number one, how can we tell the true annual interest rate a lender is charging? And we talked about that a little bit last time when we talked about effective yield, being able to compare interest rates, right? And the second one is how much of the finance charge we're entitled to save if we decide to pay off a loan sooner than originally scheduled. So some loans have what's called prepayment penalties. You're actually penalized if you pay it off early, okay? But the question still remains, if I pay off a loan early, is there some portion of this that I'm entitled to save? And if so, how much and how is that calculated? So the annual percentage rate table, that's the table I gave you, it's table 5. It's known as the true annual interest rate, and it's standardized by the Truth in Lending Act. Okay, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use that as we get going. Okay, everybody ready? Okay, Ann and Andy, do you remember them from last time? Yeah, we're going to meet their close friends Jack and Jill on Thursday, okay? Ann and Andy, they're the ones who bought the refrigerator, and shortly after the refrigerator died, their dishwasher died. This is what happens when you actually have these kinds of appliances, is that they die. We have replaced a dishwasher in every single house that we have owned, and that's 4 at this point. 4 dishwashers. They don't last that long. We've replaced 2 refrigerators in the time that we've been married. I mean, things die. Okay, so they decide that they are going to finance a new dishwasher. It costs $500 with $100 down, but this loan was only at 6% add-on interest rate for 18 months. So it's not like it was in the last one. It's a different kind of a loan, right? So there's not a window of opportunity to pay it off with no extras. It's not like that. It's just 6% add-on interest for 18 months. And we're going to find the APR of the loan. And so there's some steps that we're going to go through. The first step, we're going to figure out how much are they financing. So how much are Ann and Andy financing? $400. And how do we get $400, Mackenzie? Right. So the $100 is how much they're paying right now. The rest of it's the one that they have to still pay. And the cost of the dishwasher is $500. Again, we're ignoring the sales tax for the purposes of working with our numbers. If it had been $523.97, we could have done it. We're just using a little bit friendlier numbers, okay? The second one is to find the finance charge. Finance charges, in this case, is talking about the interest on the loan. So how long and how much are the interest? So we need to know. Let me write down the formula so that you can remember since it's been a week. It's A equal P. I didn't mean that. I equals, no mention, right? I equal PRT. Remember that formula? Okay. So we need to know the principal. That's the loan cost. We did that from part A, if you will, it's the first step. We need to know the interest rate. So what's the interest rate that they're working with here? 6%. So what will our R be in this problem? Yep, so we have, whoops, that was supposed to be 400, 0.06. What's the time? 1.5. Good, so the time is 18 months, but we have to turn the 18 months into years. That makes it 1.5 years. Okay, so grab a calculator. Let's figure out how much interest they're going to owe on this purchase. That's correct. It's $36. Did everybody get 36 out of that? Yeah? Great. All right. So then we're going to find the finance charge per $100. Okay? So here's the way this works. This is what we've done so far is not new. We've done both of those 2 steps before. Step 3 is new. So we find what we're going to call H. H is found by taking our finance charge. That's what we just found in part 2, step 2. So it's our finance charge. We divide by the amount financed, and we multiply it by $100. Okay, we have all these quantities. That's not a problem to find it. We just haven't done it before. So the finance charge from step 2 was what? 36. How much are they financing total? 400. And then we're going to multiply by the $100. This is going to get us an H value. Okay, what do we get?
9.
It is 9. Okay, so H is 9. Okay, so step 4 is to go to this table. Jamora, I handed these out before you got here. Okay, so step 4 says to use table 5, locate the nearest H value in the correct row, and the column header will tell you the APR for the loan. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to go over here and find which number of months we're at. So how many months did we have on our loan? 18. So we need to be on this chart on row for 18 months. Can you find the 18 months on yours? Okay, great. You're going to go across the row until you find the closest value to the H value we just got in step 3. That is 9. So what is the closest one to 9? And it could be over or under.
8.93.
Yeah, this one's under. It's 8.93. Okay, does everybody see that? And then you're going to go to the top of the row. And the top of the row actually tells you the interest rate that you're paying on this loan. This is the true interest rate. It's not 6%. What is it? 11. It is almost double, right? It's almost double. So it is 11%. And it's approximately 11 because like this H value is not exactly 9. There are more like specific ways you could do it to a more accurate decimal place. We're just using this accurate to the decimal point 5 because this table is set up that way. There are other tables. I've explored this recently, actually, for another project I'm working on. There are other tables out there that would take you to like the closest 0.1, right, and things like that, and it would just be a much more massive table. But we're looking at this from a simplified approach. We're trying to get the perspective of it from a sort of intuitively like what's happening, and this is a good enough approach for what we're doing, okay? So it's about 11%.
So you just go to the one that's closest to the number but not over it?
It could be over it. So if that 9.35 had not said 9.35, but it had said 9.03, we would have chosen that one. Yep. But one or the other will be the closest, whichever one's around it. Okay. Make sense? All right. So let's take a look at a couple other things in this section then. So if you remember the Truth in Lending Act, it had 2 pieces. One piece was trying to find the true annual interest rate. That's what we just did. And the second piece was the question of, if I pay off the loan early, how much am I entitled to save? That's the second part we're looking at now. So there are 2 methods that we're going to look at for finding the amount I'm entitled to save, or the unearned interest. The first one is, I think it's probably a little bit more complicated. It's going to use your table too. It's the actuarial method. So for an installment loan requiring monthly payments, which is paid off earlier than originally scheduled. So this can be a mortgage, this can be the dishwasher, the refrigerator, your car, it could be your student loans. Those are all installment loans. We've talked about them before. Then our capital R is going to be our regular monthly payment, right? The amount of money you pay every month. Y'all know what that is. I'm sure that you've seen that before. K is the remaining number of scheduled payments after the current one you're on, right? So if you're in the middle of a 5-year loan and you're paying the 12th payment, then it's the remaining 4 years of the loan, which would be 48 months that you have left, that would be K. It's however many more months you have to keep paying to get the thing paid off. H is the finance charge per $100. We saw that, right? How to do that before. So our unearned interest U is calculated as follows with the actuarial method. We multiply K times R, and then we multiply it by the fraction H over 100 plus H. Okay? So we've got this formula we're going to be looking at. There is a nuance to what's happening with our H when we do this. Okay? So let's take a look. And, one more thing before we take a look. I'm sorry, the payoff amount. Payoff amount is directly reflected in how it are affected by the unearned interest. So the payoff amount, so for an installment loan requiring the monthly payments are, it's paid off early along with the current payment. If the original loan had K additional payments scheduled after your current payment, and the unearned interest is U, right? That's the quantity we would have just found in the previous description, this one right here. Then if we take K plus 1 times your R, right? That's your current month that you're on plus all the future months, and you multiply it by your regular monthly payment, and you subtract the unearned interest, and that would be the payoff amount. So like if I were to go and look right now and ask the bank, if they use the actuarial method, ask the bank to figure out what my payoff amount is on my house, it could be done in this way, right? We'd take my total monthly payment that I'm making every single month, we'd multiply it by the number of months that I have left plus the month that I'm on, and then I'd subtract off the unearned interest, and that would be the payoff amount that they would come back to me and say whatever that number is. Okay, and it works the same for whatever you're trying to pay off. All right, Anne. Anne got a new job, and it came with a signing bonus. Are you familiar that there are jobs that come with signing bonuses? Do you know of any? Have you heard of any?
My brother gets a sign-on bonus for the Navy.
For the Navy. Okay, cool. Has anybody else ever had any?
When I got my job, like the place had just gone through a bunch of firings and COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I got like a $500.
Okay, what is your job doing?
I'm just like a theater concessionist.
A theater concessionist. Wow. There have been times when they've done sign-on bonuses for teachers because there's such a need for them. There have been times when they've done it for nursing, huge for nursing. It's a big deal with nursing. Sometimes there's conditions, like there's a sign-on bonus, but you have to actually have completed like 60 days before they give it to you. There's some things like that. Anne is getting a sign-on bonus, okay? So we understand what that is, right? Good. And in order to get their finances under control, they decide they're going to pay off the dishwasher early. Good plan. They originally agreed to 18 months, and they have made 5 payments so far. Okay, so does that make sense so far? Made 5 payments so far. It says find the unearned interest using the actuarial method. Okay, so let's start by identifying, I don't have it written on the screen, so let me write it at the top of the screen just so that we remember what the unearned interest formula is. You have it on your paper, but I don't have it on the screen. So it looked like this. Okay, did I get it written right? Good. All right, so we need to know what K is. So what is K in this problem? Close. It's actually 12. Okay, go back and remember how K was defined. K is your total months you signed up for, and then you take off the number of months that you've already paid plus the one you're on. They've paid for 5, which means they're on payment 6, so there's going to actually be 6 months they're going to take off. So we're going to get a 12. Does that make sense? Okay, that's a little tricky. Highlight that if you need to remind yourself that you're taking off, how you're taking that off, because that's a little tricky. All right, the regular monthly payment. We haven't actually calculated that, so let's actually calculate our regular monthly payment. So our regular monthly payment should be how much we're paying in total divided by how many months we assigned up to do that for. So how much were we paying, back over here, how much are we paying total for our dishwasher? Okay, not the $100 at the beginning. We don't need to do that, but like the finance part. 436. Why am I adding the 36? It's the interest. I owe that too, right? So I'm actually going to be taking the 400 that I borrowed and the 36 that I agreed to pay in interest. And then how many am I going to be dividing it by? 18, because it's an 18-month loan. So let's figure out what our regular monthly payment is on our dishwasher. Excellent. $24.22. Did everybody get that? Okay. Now, H is a little tricky. So let's take a look at H. We need to get a new H. So I'm going to write down the notes that I have written down to remind myself how to do it so that it's in your notes too and not just say it, because then you're not going to write it. I know this. I was a student too. I know, right? So here's the deal. This is the new H. So you have the new K equals 12 on the 11% column. So I'm going to jot that down and I'm going to show you what it means. This is our new H. And it's found by using K equal 12. Okay. The number of payments I'm not going to make, or that I have that I'm remaining to make, K equal 12, and on the 11% column. So why am I on the 11% column? Because that's, not because it's 18 months, but we used the 18 months to get there, right? The 11% column, the reason I was on the 11% column is because I actually used my 18 months and I used the H value that I had before and I got up to the 11%, right? That's the true interest rate that I'm being charged, okay? But now I'm not doing 18 months. I'm saving 12 months of time, correct? Or at least 12 months of payments. So what I do is I take that same number that I was at, I'll change colors. Let's go with blue. The same 11% that I was at. So I'm on the 11% column, but I want to be on the row that corresponds to 12 because that's the number of payments that I'm not going to be making. That happens to be just one row up from where I was. And what is the H value in that row? 6.06. Okay, so that's the H that I'm working for now. It's my new H based on this new construct that I'm not paying it off in 18 months. I'm saving the last 12 months. All right, so my H is actually 6.06. So my H here is 6.06. And I've run out of space, so let me shift it over a little bit. I can't remember. Yeah, I don't have space there, so. All right, so we're ready to do the unearned interest. The unearned interest formula, which is at the top, tells us that we're going to take, I'll just shrink that real small right down here. Okay, we're going to take K times our regular payment, and we're going to multiply it by H divided by 100 plus H. So I'm going to go and fill those in actually. So what is my K value that I just said? 12.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the other formula that was on there that was like K plus 1? And
That's our payoff amount. We're going to find that one on the next question is going to ask us to find the payoff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is this formula?
This finds unearned interest. It's the money that we're going to save by paying something off early. So generally speaking, when you pay a loan off early, you saved whatever interest you did not incur because you didn't have the loan out for as long. And we're trying to find how much money we're going to save by paying it off early. Okay. K was 12. R is next, so it goes here. That's the 24.22. H was the 6.06. And my denominator, I might as well just go ahead and add those together. That would be 106.06. Is that okay? All right, so we're going to put this into our calculator. Now, mind you, we only had $36 in interest that we were supposed to pay to begin with, right? So we better be getting a number that's smaller than 36. Otherwise, we've made a problem. We've made an error. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to save something between 0 and 36 because 36 was the most I was going to pay anyway. All right, so if you put that in your calculator, what does it tell you is the unearned interest in their situation?
I got 16.61.
Okay, that's what I have as well. Does that look okay to you guys? All right, so we're going to save $16 of the $36. I mean, that's what it is, right? Okay, so then the second part, the one that Savannah was asking us about, is the payoff amount. So all the description at the top's the same. We don't need to reread it again. We're just finding the payoff amount, and that is that other formula that we had written down. So the payoff is found by taking that same K value plus 1. Basically, it's telling us how many more payments, including the one that I'm working on right now, I'm paying. Okay, and then I'm multiplying it by my regular payment, and I'm subtracting the unearned interest. So that's 12 plus 1, or 13. So 13 payments, counting the one I'm on. My regular payment is $24.22. Now, think about what would happen if you just stopped there. That'd be the total amount you would pay if you paid the whole thing out as expected, right? I have my payment today, I have a payment 1 month from today, and 1 month from that, and 1 month from that, and I'm paying $24.22 every single time. So if I multiply $24.22 by my 13 payments, that's my total amount that I still have left on my loan. But I'm taking off the part that I'm saving because I'm paying it off early. And that was my unearned interest, which was the 1661. So we're going to multiply those together, subtract off the 1661. What is the payoff amount for our dishwasher? Or Ann and Andy's dishwasher?
$98.25.
298.25. So the picture you should have in your mind is Ann calls, the lender up, and she's like, I want to pay this thing off. How much do I need to pay you today to be done with this debt? And they do this calculation, and they come back and they tell her, we need 298.25. And she says, let's do it, right? 298.25. She's not saving a whole bunch, but she's saving a little bit by doing it early. Okay? All right. There's a second way to do unearned interest. This is the rule of 78. The rule of 78 has a couple of pieces in it that are familiar to us. So it says for a closed-end loan requiring monthly payments, which is paid off earlier than scheduled. That's the same situation. F is the original finance charge. We've seen that. We just didn't see it called capital F. Okay, F is the original finance charge. What was the original finance charge in our situation?
36.
It was 36. It was the interest that they were going to pay, right? Okay, that's the one thing. N is the number of payments that were originally scheduled. Well, we've seen that before too. How many payments did they set out agreeing to make? 18, right? They originally agreed to 18 months, so 18 payments. And K is the remaining number of scheduled payments after the current payment. Just like the K was before, right? Just like the K was before. So the way that we would find unearned interest is that we multiply K times K plus 1, divide it by N times N plus 1, and we multiply it by the finance charge. There's no H's. There's no regular monthly payment involved in this one. There's no table, right? It's all pieces of information we've found before, but not all of the pieces of information that we found before, just some of them. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use this method now, and we're going to figure out what their unearned interest is, because this would be a second option that the lender would have had in a way that they were calculating their unearned interest. So the rule of 78 for the unearned interest has that U is equal to K times K plus 1 over N times N plus 1 times the finance charge. Okay, we've identified what all of these are, so let's remind ourselves. What was K? It was 12. So this is 12 times 12 plus 1 or 13. What was N? 18. So we have 18 times 19. And the finance charge was 36. Okay. Okay, so one thing that your calculator could do wrong, this is calculator stuff, right, is that it could do some order of operations wrong, and by multiplying what's on top, dividing it by the first piece on bottom, and then taking that answer and multiplying it by the second piece that's on bottom. Okay? Whatever you're getting here, remember, still needs to be between 0 and 36. So if it doesn't give you something between 0 and 36, the calculator did something weird, and we need to stop it and make sure we figure out what it is. One way you can fix that if you're working with calculator is not use parentheses. So for example, if I were putting in a calculator and it required some parentheses, I wouldn't use all the ones I've drawn up here. What I would do is I would do the parenthesis at the beginning, 12 times 13, like that, and put a dot or the multiplication symbol between, and I divide it and put the parentheses around the denominator, 18 times 19, so that it understands that the 18 and the 19 are multiplied together before the division happens, and then multiplied by 36. All right. Yes, Jamora.
On that top row, is it K and then parentheses K plus 1?
It is. Yeah. That's a little sloppy. Okay, what'd you get? 16.2 or 20, right, for money, right? I have something slightly different. 42 is what I had. Is that what you meant to tell me? Sorry, I totally heard you wrong. 42. There we go. That's really close to what we had before, right? Okay, we shouldn't expect that it'd be the same, by the way. That would be awfully strange. But we kind of would think that it should be pretty close. And it's pretty close. It's $16.42 instead of $16, and what was the other one, 61 cents? Yeah, so we're within coins. We're pretty close. Finding the payoff amount is done the exact same way for either method. Okay, so the payoff, if you'll remember, looks like this. Payoff is the K plus 1 value times your regular monthly payment minus the unearned interest. It's just that the unearned interest was found differently. So this is 13 at the beginning. The regular payment was $24.22. But now my unearned interest is $16.42. Again, I would expect not to get the exact same answer, but I would expect that it would be close. What would my regular monthly payment be? Payoff be? I didn't say that right at all. What would my payoff amount be using the rule of 78? What was it,
298.
Yes, 298.44. That's really close, right? What was the other one? 298.25. Again, within pennies.